are on the final day of Music Matters. All these happy faces here. We're just a couple of hours out from the closing party. What a time to be alive. And better still to know that we have this panel here assembled of really some of the great players in electronic dance music right now. I think in many ways this panel sort of represents the bright future of our industry. And it's sort of a confluence of the big happenings in music right now. And with that I say streaming, electronic music, and China. So we only have 30 minutes in which to chat, so I will dispense with the typical formalities of introducing everyone or having them introduce themselves, and I think it would probably make sense to just jump straight in. I would also like to open up for questions from the audience, and I think really if anyone has a question and it's a pressing one, just get that arm in the air and we'll get a microphone to you. You don't have to sit on it until the end of the session. So, we've heard it, Music Matters, this idea of the Chinese market waking up, and I get a sense right now, and certainly from speaking to Gunnar, that the electronic music market in China has already woken up. So with that in mind, I'd love to hear from Alan. We'll explore a little bit of your career and how it's really exploded, incredibly so. Welcome. It's great to have you here. Can you give all of us a sense of just the scale of your business in this part of the world?
Well, hello everyone. My name is Alan, and I will say it's a true honor to be here with each and everyone. And yeah, like I started making music for fun back home in my bedroom, and I really had no clue what I was doing. And then sooner or later, I found out that I was actually really interested in making music, and I figured out I found myself by doing so. And while doing so, I created a song I called Fade, and that one took the internet by storm. And that was something I never, ever, would I imagine when I first, for example, downloaded or asked someone for help in order to make music, or something I never ever would have imagined that I would wake up and think that I would make. And then I started to work with Gunnar, and he proposed the idea of taking the song to create Faded, basically put vocals in it. And that was basically the two major steps in my career, which has also led me to become who I am today and where I stand today.
And I think, so I remember vividly that we launched 4th of December 2015. It seems like it's 20 years ago sometimes, but it's only 3 years on December this year. And the first times that we heard about, I think it was you that came to me, there was a lot of Asian comments in the comment sections on socials. Obviously, we had a 3-year plan for Alan that we mutually formed and mapped out, that we're gonna, one single, we're gonna build the market, and we're gonna start in Norway and the Nordics and then bring it to the world. And in 3 weeks, it was topping charts across Europe. But then, before we kind of got the attention from the US or South America or South Europe, we experienced, and Alan came and said, I think this is working really well in Asia, because my comment sections is filled with languages I really don't understand anything of. And that was why, and that was how, I don't remember exactly when, but I do remember it was in the spring after Alan doing, keep in mind, at this point, he was just turned 18. He had never done a concert before. I remember very well, first time I called Alan, he'd seen me on TV, I think, and he who gave you my number? And then he said, I really don't need a manager because I have a laptop. and it wasn't many months from that until we were, on a plane to China. And Alan was doing his first concerts in the market. And again, I have to give credit to, because I've been in the industry since I told my dad I didn't want to go to law school, and that's 20 years ago. Alan had only been in the industry for about 4, 5, 6 months until he made that first journey, that huge journey, which is to, not only physically fly fly out to China or fly out to Asia, but like mentally, to go from your bedroom to a nightclub in Shanghai, that's a pretty big step.
Alan, you're the poster boy, really, I think, of today's global artists, and I can speak from my personal experience. My daughter, I just mentioned earlier, loves your music, and here you are, you've just turned 21, you're from Norway, massive in Asia, and my daughter in Brisbane, Australia, did a performance to Spectre at her school. She did a gymnastics routine with her best friend, and it was brilliant, and she didn't win because she was ripped off. But you're an artist who's travelled borders, and you're not looking back at the moment, and you're touring heavily, so it's not just you're plugged into a laptop. I wonder, do you plan your next step with Gunnar? Are you planning what's ahead, or are you just soaking it up and taking it all in?
I would say that I'm soaking it all in, and then take it all as it goes, at the same time as I'm planning the next steps for my career and what's for the next coming years. Like, we've got a bunch of plans in store for the next upcoming months and even the upcoming year, and I would say, like, I'm really, really excited, and there's so much.
You gave us a wonderful opportunity to promote now. You realize that, right? That was like leading us into, so the album is dropping. Oh, no, I'm kidding. We actually set planning just before this panel started. We were up in the lobby planning, because I think it's hard to plan when things happen. You said it very well once, that it feels like we've been playing catch up for 3 years, because in many ways the success for Alan happened so quickly that it's like you cannot plan for something like that. You cannot sit down, okay, so world domination in February, and then if we go on a globe, you just have to run as fast as you can and try to really figure out the way as you run. And I think, again, giving this young man credit, he's done that extremely well. But I do also think at some point, counting the 34, 35 releases we've had, including remixes over 3 years, at some point, although he's one of the most hardworking young men or people I ever met, I do think at some point, not very long from now, we need to stop and pause for a bit and maybe think what's going to be the next step. So I think that's kind of concluding on the conversation we had upstairs an hour ago.
I have to bring the other chaps into this conversation now. I can't just hog you and speak to you for the next 20 minutes. Sungri Lee, I'd like to hear a little bit about your journey and how's business?
Pardon?
How's business? And can you tell us about your journey to this stage?
Actually, I had my boy band, my group, the Big Bangs one. This year it's gonna be 12th anniversary, and then especially this year I did my solo stuff. I released my solo albums last month, and then I'm doing my solo tour right now. Yeah, quite doing great, I think. And then other things, stuff is going well. And then especially I did Alan and with me, we did one project together. It's called Ignite. It was great scores right now. So yeah, doing great, I think.
Did you work together face to face on this project or remotely?
I have a great partnership with the Liquid State. I joined Liquid State now, so Liquid State, it's the biggest EDM platform in Asia. So it's like I don't have before. I tried it before. There's these collaborations like this, like an EDM artist and then Korean artist and Chinese artist. It's like matched together like this. So it was amazing collaboration. It was a really good experience. But it's a funny thing. Is like it was so fun. Alan just texts me, "Yo, bro, I got some good tracks for you." Okay, he sent me, and he just sent me the tracks, and then hearing the sounds really great, and I go to my studio straight. I record it, and I send him to back, and he fixed it on my vocal, and he sent me back, and I realized it sounds was like totally different person on the vocals. You know what happened to my voice? The time I know it. Oh my God, Alan Walker is an amazing artist. He fixed it my vocals. It was so totally different voice. Like, is it me? Like.
And I think I just have to add to that, because Seungri's been, you know, I say that you're the honorary president of marketing at Liquid State, which you just proved very well. And to me, Seungri is in many ways an example of how you can be a multiple businessman and entrepreneur in this business, because you always have a new idea. I know, you know, your manager Ji Hong, who I respect very much, and YGX that you work with, you know, sometimes it must be exhausting because you have so many great ideas coming all the time.
Yes.
And there's energy. So this collaboration, there was a launch you know, initiated and arranged for Liquid State by Andy and TME, as well as Gavin Perry, Dennis Hanlon, and Sony Music in Hong Kong, where you guys met first. And then, you know, it all happened organically. They exchanged, whether it was WeChat or phone numbers or what it was, I don't know. But all of a sudden, we end up having this track, and you know, it's done 200 million streams globally, video, audio streams, and it's about 3 months since we released. And currently, you know, now the US is calling us and saying, you know, we wanna license this record for Colombia and US, and we want to push it in the US market. And that is, to me, being fortunate to be working with guys like this who have that much energy, but also who are able to, you know, organically push and develop something that really catches and attracts the audience. That is the essence of what we want to do with Liquid State. So I think Liquid State is extremely fortunate to have honorary president of marketing, Seungri the Great, and Alan Walker as a global collaborator and ambassador. And I'm saying that, you know, with a smile, but I mean this so seriously. Working with young people who have that level of initiative and just natural progression in their creations is a privilege.
And you have stakeholders from Europe, Asia, and Australia, so that's really a global push right there.
Yeah, and now the phone is ringing. You know, people call and say, you know, they've seen what he's done, and what he's done, what those collaborations can. You know, you're talking about the girl from South Africa. How do you get into, and what opportunities are there in the Chinese market? And I do believe that, you know, collaborations such as these are of course on a very high level, but I do think I would encourage everyone and anyone to try to collaborate, to be open-minded like Seungri, to working with anyone and everyone, just as long as it's good music. I have 2 tracks that's we're looking forward to releasing, that he's the creator and architect behind. His record label, Natural High Records, which is a part of Liquid State and our organization. And I can tell you, there's just a raw energy when you hear what you know, the forces, the creative forces of different people, wherever there are from the world, can put together. And those kind of collaborations can definitely open a door into the Asian market and marketplace, or the Chinese for that matter.
Yes, I want to say we saw a lot of opportunity from now, because I did a Ignite project, and then it was crossovers, because Europe and US and then Asia market is different. We call it fandom. Asia have a fandom, but okay, I have Asia fandoms. It's gonna be crossover. So who is Alan Walker? And in Norway, who is Big Bang Seungri? So it's like a crossover. So it was a really good synergy at the Ignite project. So actually, I really want to focus on the Asian market, about the Asian EDM artists, like Cossacks here. So actually, Europe and US already blooming about the EDM market. A lot of have star DJs, of course, Alan Walker's here. But we focus on the Asian star DJ right now. because Asian EDM DJs, we have unique, because we have fandom in Asia fandom. So we just started from the Ignite, we using the platform. It's like a global platform, and we saw a lot of opportunities. So from now, we're gonna do more collaboration with the EDM artists, and then Asian artists. We do the more collaboration, and then we need to bring the next rebel, I think.
Corsac, we'll see you perform later tonight, I believe. Maybe before then you could tell us about yourself, your journey to this stage.
First of all, I want to apologize to you guys because I learned English just 2 years ago from the American TV series. So maybe I will make some mistake, but it's such a big honor to be here in Singapore with you guys and with Sunri, Alan Walker, my boss, and Andrew here with all of you. Like, Singapore is special to me because my first piano concert when I was 14 was in Singapore. So I'm Corsac, I'm from Shanghai. I'm already 29 years old, not young anymore. But I always keep that dream when I was a kid, like spreading the Chinese music. Now it's Chinese EDM to the world. And I'm so thankful for everything Liquid State did for me to complete my dream. Yeah.
We're just getting started. I have can I tell a quick story about how I met him? I told this to Alan a while ago, because again, I told you about Kim coming into the work at Liquid State, and one of the demos, Reverse, was from Corsac. So I went to his apartment with Robin, the head of A&R, and he had built a home studio that he had sound isolated with ping pong balls, not to disturb his neighbors. And just, 3 layers of ping pong balls in a home studio. I just had the dedication and devotion that takes to sound isolate. I've never heard of anyone doing that in a home studio. And like you said, he was a classically trained pianist, and he sat down and he played Chopin for 5 minutes. It was the first thing that happened when I came in the door. And this guy produces music, he writes music, he sings himself, and artists and talents like him are rare, but I would say they're in abundance in China right now. And I think he's one of the first that will come through, much thanks to what Seungri just said. People like Seungri, artists like Seungri and Alan, and having a joint venture as Liquid State that are able to give these artists an opportunity and a voice and a platform. And through the collaborations and through the genuine collective support from the other artists at Liquid State, we hope, and I honestly think that we will be able to give put a soundtrack to the next generation of DJs and producers from China.
Great. Corsac, just staying with you for a moment, who were your musical heroes growing up? So you were classically trained.
Yes, I think so.
Which heroes? Well, I know what hero you had when you were young.
Alan Walker?
But that was not when you were young, was it?
Oh, no. When I was young, of course, Coldplay, Avicii, Swedish House Mafia, and then Alan Walker, Big Band. So that's me now.
Excellent. Andrew Lee, let's talk about live for a moment. You're the executive chairman of Zouk. We're all heading out there tonight for the big show, the big closing party. It feels like this business here in this part of the world is booming. We have international festivals like Ultra coming into Asia and into China and also into Australia. You have Storm talking about coming to Australia. It hasn't happened yet. You have the Marquee is coming to Singapore. How's business?
Business is good. I think we recently, we've now, Genting Group as a whole, which is a great gaming conglomerate, basically took over Zouk about 3 years ago. And now we're really kind of in the expansion phase right now. So we did a relocation from Jack Kim Street, which was the original Zouk in Singapore, to Clarke Quay. And then, so we have a 31,000 square foot project here. And we're really kind of trying to change Zouk itself as just a single nightclub concept into a lifestyle portfolio. So in doing so, we'll be kind of like really kind of adding in kind of bars, restaurants, even hotels in the future. In the moment where I think China is definitely a place that we really want to go into. How we go into it, I think it's going to be quite a challenge. I think Zookout is a festival which we do every year. It's a beach festival, which attracts around 20,000 people per day. But it's a beach festival, and to kind of do one in China, I think will be quite a challenge. We did have opportunity to do one in Sanya before, but it didn't actually, I think having a strong partner on the ground is very important, and also kind of having a sustainable long-term festival as well is also very important. One of the things that we're actually doing in China actually is we're building a cruise ship which is custom made just for China. It's about 200,000 tons, it's going to be over €1 billion, and it's going to be able to fit 9,000 people on board. And this is something that we're going to be launching in about 2 years' time, and there's going to be 3 different zoo concepts on board that ship. There'll be like a beach club, there'll be a social gaming bar, and there'll be an indoor immersive experience club as well. So these are kind of, for that part, we're going to try to make Zook into kind of a millennial travel company, so that we're going to introduce the China market to Zook concepts, and also hopefully in the future then be able to kind of do like floating festivals out of Shanghai.
That is very ambitious. Plans for Australia, perhaps?
Sorry,
any plans for Australia, to move into Australia?
I actually spoke last year at EMC, which I think is an Australian music conference. I think that market itself is so far forward in terms of its music, because it has so many different genres that actually kind of have been introduced there. So I think for you to go into the Australian market, you would really have to have a very, very strong concept. And I think just having, I think there's so many festivals now that are basically just pure EDM. I think even Zookout this year, we're trying to kind of really evolve the concept into something which is a little bit more immersive in terms of experience. One of the things that we're doing is really kind of, we're doing a pop-up 4 hands dinner with a world's 50 best restaurant for our VIPs, for example. Coachella is a good example of where a festival has really kind of evolved from a music festival into something which is a music festival slash food festival slash fashion festival slash arts festival. I think along those lines, I think because Australia has had so many EDM festivals, if we were to go into Australia, we would need to have a concept that really is quite different from everything else.
We will open up to questions in a moment, so if you have any questions, let's come here. Can we have a mic up the front, please? This is all about engagement. Most of you have come a long way and paid a lot of money to get here, so let's talk. We can get a mic down here. Look, in the meantime, I watched a very interesting interview this morning with Eminem and Sway. I'm sure you'd be interested in this because you're a hip-hop guy. But one of the takeaways from this interview was Eminem talking about this idea of competing with his own success. So have a big album, a big hit, and then the follow-up also being a massive hit in its own right, but perhaps not having the numbers of the previous record, and how he's constantly feeling like he competes with himself. And I wonder, with the artists on this panel, with the transparency of the streams, do you ever think, if you've got 3 billion streams on one song and 2 on the next, do you have to fight this perception that you need to grow with every track?
That's a difficult question. But I do know that the first thing I do every day I wake up is to check the QQ charts and Spotify statistics, and it's the last thing I do before I go to sleep.
That can't be healthy. It can't be.
But I have to say, I think that's like, it's slightly, you also have to be, we talk a lot about streaming numbers, we talk a lot about streaming numbers as well, and I think that's of course important, but keep in mind that we're in many ways writing history as we go, not in the sense that we're, historical by any means, but we're all doing that. There are no, how can we know what streaming will look like in 5 years? We didn't know anything about what streaming would look like today 5 years ago. And we're constantly breaking records. You're constantly reading, oh, this band broke this record, that artist broke that record. That's something we should keep in mind, that the digital era of streaming has just begun in the long-term perspective. And if we're going to scream and shout every time we break a record, we'll be screaming and shouting constantly for the next decade or so, until we realize that, there's all going to, because this is the matter of changing an industry from a format that you're selling one product and you buy that product, and I don't know how many times you listen or how long you keep it, whether you put it in a shelf or you put it on your Discman and listen to it every day. Whereas what we do now is a consumption-regulated industry, where consumption doesn't end. That's the great thing about QQ Music. It doesn't get sold out. You can always stream.
Our question at the front here.
Hi, my name is Sarah Jane. I'm interested to know more about the model, the relationship between Tencent, Sony, yourselves, and then if there are independent managers involved, or do you absorb that management? And then also with regards to booking agent, are you working with independent booking agents, or is it 360, everything in one?
Just to clarify, so again, like I said in our previous talk, Liquid State is very much a unique setup. It's a joint venture between Tencent Music Entertainment and Sony Music Entertainment, and in that sense, it is something that I've rarely or never seen before, which makes it a very, very unique project and a very, very unique company, which also means that we have to figure out and find our way and our path as we go. So for his involvement and Seungri over here, they're collaborators, ambassadors, global collaborators, and they've taken on the role to be the ambassadors that help build the brand. You know, when they come together and make a song such as Ignite, and we're topping charts in 15 countries, and we're doing 200 million streams, that paves the way so that my phone calls and I get, I'm not going to mention names, but artists from the US and other artists in China or in Korea and Asia saying, is there any way of doing that? Like, can we get on a collaboration like that? So in that sense, they've taken on the role as ambassadors and play a hugely important part in what we do. But Seungri has his own management team, his own setup, his own business, and I would say various businesses that range from nightclubs to restaurants to his artistry. And Alan has the same. But then, of course, we have artists such as Corsac, which are signed to Liquid State on a full 360 agreement, where his management, we're working on his masters, we're working on his live side, and we're helping him build a brand from the ground up. And then we have people like Andrew over there who we work with. Liquid Nights, the first Liquid Nights happened in Seoul. At Seungri's Burning Sun nightclub, and that was a night I will never ever forget. So it's a traveling club concept, and tonight we're privileged and happy to have a sold out crowd at Zouk. And I think again, okay, so there are no rules as to how we necessarily do things moving forward. There are patterns and there are requests and demands and wishes and desires from the consumer, whether that is one of Big Bang and Seungri's fans, whether that's a nightclub ticket buyer that goes to Zouk, whether that's a diehard Alan Walker fan from Germany, or whether it's a new Chinese artist that wants to break the market. So that's, I have to say, that is what makes me the most excited about going to work every day in Shanghai, is that I don't have a clue about what the day is going to be like.
I'm excited too. It's been a really exciting panel. Are there any questions in the audience? We have time for one more question.
Hello. I've got a question about venues. I wondered if you guys thought there was a gap in the market for new clubs in some Chinese cities. Obviously, Shanghai and other big, tier 1 cities, already the infrastructure's there and the clubs are already there. But, Andrew's already spoken about going as far as building a ship to host a festival. I wondered if you guys thought there's room to build clubs in certain cities or build festival sites throughout China, if you're trying to do it at all, or?
We've actually got 3 Zouk clubs in China, but they're all counterfeit Zouks. We actually tried to kind of stop them using the name, and they changed the name from ZOUK to ZOOK. So I don't think anytime soon there's going to be those are going to go away. I definitely feel that the market there definitely has space for new clubs, but I think having a very strong partner on the ground is very important, because there's a lot of regulation involved, and I think there's a lot of, you need to have some type of political connection as well, even if you hold festivals as well. So, you know, a big kind of, you know, a challenge for us is really finding a very strong partner on the ground to be able to hold these festivals. But I think in terms of the actual people who go out, I mean, I've been to Shanghai and stuff, and Beijing, and even Shenzhen, and the spending power there is incredible. I think the amount of people who are who can spend in clubs is, and the way they spend as well is something that I haven't seen of for quite a long time.
And with that, we have officially run out of time. There's one more session today, and then we party tonight. So please thank the panel.